Be advised, the opinions and views of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
You are what you watch.
Hello, good evening. My name is Harriton Boatco and welcome to our program. Now, if we were to read the headlines and go by the current events, we see there's a lot of movement politically. As much as we have issues with the South with energy, we've got international events that have taken place. You've got North Korea and now for the pending second rocket launch of North Korea. You've got America, the elections, that's very complex, with the Republican Party taking position with Romney. And let's see what else is going on around the world. Of course, Afghanistan continues to blow up. But what else is new? Oh, yes, I forgot about Syria. The civil war that is not so civil, after all. In our country, we've got issues. Politically, it's burning up. As much as there are many priorities that need attending to, what has grabbed the headlines as of this weekend, obviously, is all about Manny Pacquiao. Now, why Manny Pacquiao? I mean, after all, he's a neophyte congressman. He's barely 30 years old, and as much as he wants to do well, compared to the political competence of the other congressmen, senators, etc., he's really a newcomer to the game. But what is interesting is how he has become a political butterfly and why. And why has he taken center stage? And very simply put forward, he moved on and is not aligning with the president's political party, which is the Liberal. Instead moved on to the vice president's coalition party. And if I'm not mistaken, as this show is going on live and broadcast, he has been sworn in or swearing in. Interestingly enough, we have a senior politician with us in the studio who will help us talk, if not analyze, the different issues, which is why we called this show Political Parties. Of course, our host, our co-host, Dr. John Tiop is with us. He'll introduce our guest.
Thank you, Harry. You know, ladies and gentlemen, Harry mentioned about the center stage. Usually the center stage in Congress is being looked at by the media as people are really controversial. And sometimes the concept of the public relations and also the people looking at even the PR of this congressman, for them to be good in media is being done. Now, our guest is somebody that's not being shown on media because maybe he's working and we would know how he is working as a congressman. Our guest is a senior politician, a senior statesman, who has been a member of the Constitutional Convention. Di pa ako pinapanganak po noon, mga 1970s.
1970.
Ganun kabata ka ba dyan?
Then, nung mga panahon yun, na-elect na assemblyman, then na-elect na, ngayon, congressman na. At second term, and mga pwesto sa gobyerno such as administrator of different agencies, the NFA and so many others. So, in terms of education, he's a CPA lawyer. So, when it goes to economics and law, he has the authority to discuss that. And in terms of legislations, being a senior statesman and a senior legislator, maaaring natin siyang matanong ukol sa nangyayari, specifically on political parties and specifically the political setup and political ideologies. So, our guest is none other than Congressman Emil L. Ong of the 2nd District of Northern Samar. Okay, good afternoon.
Good evening,
John.
good evening, Congressman.
Good evening, Harry. Thank you very much for that very kind introduction.
No, but marami po kayo. You are an attorney at law.
I'm a CPA lawyer.
Yes, you are a CPA as well. You are an authorized professional certified public accountant.
That's right.
You have an MA, a master's degree as well.
In Harvard, yeah.
In Harvard, no less. So Harvard, okay. So over and above that, you've been in politics. You dabbled in politics. You were an assemblyman. So this was during the martial law period, assemblyman, of course. That was your first salvo. Northern Samar, no?
Concon delegate would be
Concon delegate.
considered also as a political exercise.
Same,
when
oh,
you
same
submitted, that was 1970.
70,
That was before martial law.
Correct, before.
When we were having convention, that was when martial law was declared in 1972.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. Concon yun.
Concon yun.
Oh, Concon.
And I think I'm the only one who is not known there. Most of our colleagues are past President Garcia, Macapagal, Chief Justice Paras. We have lots of
Pinakabata doon was
dignitaries.
Dick Gordon.
Dick
ah.
Correct.
Gordon,
I was 28, Dick was 26.
Ayun. So
I
you're
was 28.
2 years older lang
Yeah.
than Dick.
And Harry, we were exactly 21 delegates who were below 30 years old. And I can remember the figure very well because we organized ourselves into a group of 21. We called it Club 21.
Club 21.
Those who were below 30 years old, we organized ourselves Club 21. 21 kami noon.
Pero when they elected the constitutional delegate,
1970.
in the 70s,
Then we were,
wala pong political parties during
Wala
that.
ho. Non-partisan
No,
po
but
yun.
in the old days, dalawang party system
yeah.
na.
Oh.
Nationalista
Liberal
and
and
liberal.
nationalista, that's right.
Opo, wala nang iba.
That's correct.
But when you got into the CONCON, that was cut short with the imposition of martial law.
Actually, temporary lang yung culture na yun, Hari, because we still continue the convention,
Apa.
even during martial law. Because Marcos did not abolish the Constitutional Convention. Remember, naging controversial noon yung Ban Marcos Resolution of NAPRAMA, because NAPRAMA introduces a resolution in the Constitutional Convention not to allow anymore President Marcos from running for election as president as mandated in the Constitution na ang president ay one term lang. But there was attempt on the Marcos group na who were sympathetic to Marcos, mga delegates, to amend that Constitution to allow a second term for president. But NAPRAMA introduces another resolution banning that.
Will
And
that-
I'm one of the
Will
co-signers.
that be okay po, a single term for a president?
I am for that because the tremendous power and influence of the president when he ran for re-election would be very unfair to the opponent.
What if the president is good? And
Well,
we like him.
That would be an assumption that when he was good, he should have served all his goodness during his 6-year terms. Hindi po ba?
Meron naman magaling dyan. Meron
There
naman
is-
pumasa.
Diyan, there is correct. I agree with Harry. When there is somebody who is good, I believe there is also another guy who would be better.
Oo, di ba? But let's go fast forward. Now, you have been part of the system which worked previously, which was the two-party system, and you saw a change into the multi-party system.
That's right.
And then whereas we introduced what we call the party list, dumami pa, 20% of the current number of seats in Congress.
The 1987 Constitution.
Yes, 87. And right after, it was during the Cory Constitution. Or, yes, it
Yes.
was.
Cory.
Yung ginawa nila na the parliament lost by one vote. Parliamentary
We
lost.
lost.
We lost by one vote. And
And the unicameral also
in the
lost by
unicameral,
one
yes. So we have actually a mutation of a system that is a mestizo of both. And we continue to do this to the present day. Correct me if I'm wrong, di ba?
I agree.
Let's go to current events, sir, Congressman Ong. Today, we have an issue wherein the budget secretary, who is supposed to be a professional, because appointed yan, hindi naman mandated yan, hindi
Yes.
elective, di ba? Once you are no longer, you are not in elective position, you are appointed and you are given a portfolio, most especially one as sensitive and powerful, with the authority to disburse the DBM. Di ba po, dapat non-partisan, non-political party, non-politics dapat yan. Yung professional ka, yun lang
Correct.
gagawin mo.
Dapat.
Di ba? Yung mandato mo, objective mo is the office.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
Bakit
Secretary Abad is liberal.
That's
Opo,
the
kaklase ko po yan
idea.
sa atin si next Secretary ba? Ang hindi ko
I
lang
fully
maintindihan.
agree and subscribe to that.
O
Harry.
nga, paano nangyari yan? It brings me back to the impeachment. Bago natin makalimutan yung impeachment. Di ba rule of law is what keeps us civilized, sir. Di ba? Because you're a man of the law. Eh.
Yes.
It's your profession. You studied it. You swore at the end of your exams and
And
during
I
your
respect
studies.
that.
Di ba?
I respect. We have to follow the rule of law.
Without law, anarchy.
Yes.
Opo. So, how is it we have a system that is already a mestizo, a continuous mutation, if not a dinosaur that continues to grow, but with different heads all over the place? And now, siya pa nagagalit or siya pa ang naging spearheading, so to speak, this critique or criticism or intrigue, if need be, with this Manny Pacquiao who refuses to join the Liberal Party when in reality, Pacquiao just said, hindi nyo naman ako inimbita sa slate nyo eh. So siyempre, the guy has dreams. Why not? Every Filipino has dreams. Mas lalo na a man like this guy who's a billionaire who all the Filipinos know. In fact, I think he's known more around the world than he is in the Philippines. But never, I'm sure he's as popular here. But, you know, he joins the vice president's group and ngayon nag-aawayan sila, di ba? Did you know that the president went on air this afternoon trying to rationalize that it's not true? It was even in the newspapers. He did not snub Pacquiao.
I read that.
Yeah, but how can you say he didn't snub it? We saw it on TV. Di ba? Hindi niya pinakilala eh.
But
What
he
do you
said-
think? What do you think?
But his justification, Harry, is that it's not only Pacquiao that he did not mention specifically. There are still other congressmen who were around. So, nilamsam na lang niya.
Lahat.
And he said, and other congressmen and public official who are here. Parang ganun ang justification niya. But I think, if I am Pacquiao, maybe I will also feel bad. Kasi he is that popular, and I think any president could not miss him. By the way, even in Las Vegas, I have been a fan of Pacquiao every time
You
he
supported
had
him?
Yeah, every time he has a fight in
Las
Vegas.
Vegas.
I think 3 times. I always went there on my own.
To support.
Hindi libre.
Oo.
On my, but yung ticket libre. Binibigyan kami ng yung $1,000 na ticket. Sometimes he give me even 4. So I have a brother in the States who is a medical practitioner na bibigyan ko
Yeah,
rin.
nakakasama na rin.
Nakakasama. And also his son who is a dentist there. In other words, he is really very popular there. And one thing that Pacquiao brought to the Philippines, yung good name natin, na pinopromote din niya whenever he is asked or inquired on a press conference. He is very nationalistic and he always said good things about the Philippines. Maganda
Actually,
din yun para sa atin malaman ng ating mga taong bayan that Manny Pacquiao, aside from being a congressman, is very nationalistic.
I think he's the biggest ambassador of the Catholic Church. Every time there is a fight, the cameras will see him. Nagdadasal, nagsisign of the cross yan, di ba? Before and after the fight. Eh.
Harry, when the BIR was trying to collect something from him, I wrote a strong letter to the commissioner asking the commissioner to be lenient on Pacquiao about this non-tax payment. Maybe it can be done after the fight because it could affect him mentally. Hindi naman sa ayaw kong makolekta yung dapat bayaran ni Pacquiao. Ang akin lang point is that it could bother him. No, it could give him some stress. No, why not delay that? Anyway, hindi naman yan tatakbo si Manny. No, let us do this kind of things to our
Congressman,
co-Filipino.
on the concept of Pacquiao moving in from one party to another, he was then from the Lakas CMD Campi, then the Nationalista Party, and now going to the PDP Laban.
No, liberal.
Nagliberal pa siya.
Oh, liberal, right when the president came
okay,
in.
what would be your opinion on political turncoatism?
John, correct me if I'm wrong. Ang atin concept ng political party sa Pilipinas is not really that matured compared to other countries like the United States.
Okay.
Yung party system natin sa Pilipinas, hindi ginagamit na importante.
Kasi di ba dapat
sa isang,
on a political party should be based on ideologies.
dapat.
Ideal.
Dapat.
That is
Kaya
the
lang,
Republican and the Democrats. So,
correct. Ang
Kung
nangyayari,
walang budget sa ideology.
ang nangyayari
Double budget!
you know, I have to admit, even in my own home province, yung party namin, we don't even emphasize which party do we belong.
Pagdating sa
We never-
local, parties
it's
don't
more,
count.
It's more
National,
on personalities. In my province, for instance, Hindi naman in-identify kung anong partido masyado ni Emil. Bumuboto sila kay Emil because of my person. Bumuboto sila sa kalaban ko because of his personality. Not because of the party that we affiliate. That's that's the situation in our country.
Sa Congress,
which
ganon.
which is costing us very much. Dahil kami lahat ang nagsusoldier.
Kayo naglalabas niyan eh.
Kami ang naglalabas eh. Hindi naman ang partido kuminsan eh. Yun ang tragedy of the party system in the Philippines.
For
And I call
Congress-
that tragedy because dapat when we identified party, we should really follow the ideology to the party we belong. Pero sa atin wala.
Kasi that would be
akong
the advocacy of the congressman that you would vote when they sit in Congress and when they sit as a senator. Kasi if the political party is conservative, gusto ko ito yung partidong ito. Ito kasi yung mga anti-RH bill, ito yung mga gusto ng RH bill, gusto yung ano. Ngayon hindi puro personality.
Nakakalimutan natin yun. Actually, when the election come, nakakalimutan natin yun. Kung kay Ong ka, kalaban mo yung kanyang kalaban. Kung doon ka sa kalaban nyo, hindi ka kay Ong. Hindi naman sinasabi, liberal ako dahil kalaban ni Ong. Hindi naman ako sa NUP. By the way, I belong to the NUP, National Unity
Pero
Party.
is it the right time for us
The newest party.
to
Yun ang pinakabago. Accredited na.
Accredited na.
Pero,
approved by the COMELEC.
Congressman, will it be right now the right time to go to the proposal of then Speaker De Venecia to come up with a party subsidy? Kasi para yung mga partido hindi na masyadong
Bakit
umaasa.
yan? Kaya sinasabi ko nga, na wala naman kami nakukuha din sa party. We are the one that subsidize our own election campaign. Walang masyado ang party sa local, maybe in the national.
Sa national
When you
meron
run for the senator,
Oh,
for the
senator.
president, for the vice president, yun, the party affiliation is very important, I would
Correct,
say.
correct.
But for local, congressman, governor,
Mayor, wala.
not so
Useless,
much.
useless.
Very
Wala.
little.
Personal.
Kung mayroon yan, personal. Personal ho.
But this issue of, first let's go to the political parties, the sensitivities, the current events with Pacquiao moving, the president getting involved 2 years into the administration, 1 year to go before election, pinakikialaman niya midterm elections sa mga senador. Tama ba ito?
Well,
Di ba presidente natin siya, hindi siya presidente ng Liberal Party? Correct me if I'm wrong. Hindi, kasi, alam mo, I find it funny because his opponent, the vice president's opponent, Mar Rojas' opponent, won the vice presidency. And that's the president of the Liberals, si Rojas. Kinalaban niya ngayon si Binay, who belongs to another party, nanalo. But, because of his close affiliation, he gave way to Noynoy Aquino to become the president, who eventually walked on to be the president. Binigyan siya ng portfolio as a secretary. Parang or seemingly mas mataas pa than the vice presidential position. Di ba? Parang gano'n. So yung talagang nanalo, si Rojas.
on the cabinet position.
Oh, yes.
The rank of the Secretary of Transportation definitely is higher and more respected
There
than
you
the rank of the housing
Authority.
Authority.
That's what's
that
happened.
cannot be disputed.
So the elections did not bode well. In this case, he was rewarded for losing because of his affiliation with the president. Now, we've got another political exercise in the next 12 months. And it seems that already innuendos and a lot of pressure is well on its way. We have the vice president and his party, his coalition party, the new one. And then you've got the liberal on the other side. And the president obviously leaning over the liberal. Isn't our president the president of all political parties? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think you are right on that aspect. Pero the human factor of everybody, maybe, I want ko lang hari if you are the
Greed.
president.
Which virtue? Greed?
Hindi naman. If you are the president and there will be lots of governor, congressman asking you some political party favor, I don't know how you can react.
But should not...
Ganun ata ang nangyayari kay Presidente. No, in fairness to the President, I'm not trying to defend his actions, no? Pero in fairness to the President, you will be bothered by lots of...
Pero di ba dapat matapos na yung ganung tradisyon na kung saan yung mga kalapit sa partido
Pero di
sinusuportahan?
ba,
Dapat.
matuwid na daan eh.
Matuwid na daan eh.
Yung
Matuwid
statement-
na,
yung
matuwid
statement-
na daan ba yan? Yung nangyayari ngayon, matuwid na daan ba po ito?
Yun nga. Yung statement mo, Hari, na when you become the President, You should think of that you are the president of all the
You
Filipino
are
people.
our party. You are our president.
Not only of the political parties.
Oo.
Malayo pa naman ang election, di ba?
But even if
may prohibition tayo under the Constitution dyan na within 90 days lang ang campaign period, within 60 days lang ang local, or 45 days lang ang local. So, dapat hindi pa muna ngayon maging partisan ang president or anybody else for that matter.
But Congressman,
Ngayon, ang nangyayari, politika na kaagad.
But Congressman, if the president gets involved and puts in peddles influence and pressure into the political scenario, kawawa naman yung kalaban niya because hawak niya yung administrasyon, hawak
Yung
niya.
influence.
Oh, the influence. Di ba undue influence yan? Hindi naman ata tama. Parang hindi balanse yung labanan. Dapat wag makialam ang presidente. Miski political party, out siya.
Especially so that he is no longer running for re-election.
Well, he cannot. And he's not
And
running
that
for this specific
yeah,
election.
Hindi.
Dapat bitaw siya. Di ba? Dapat
You cannot
bumitaw
always
siya.
say Harry, he cannot. Because there are lots of presidents who attempted by changing the Constitution, by amending the Constitution.
But what has happened traditionally, because it was he who made his platform matuwid na daan. So straighten the road.
Siya ba yun, yung gumawa talaga ng platform?
No, pero yung sinasabi niya,
Ang alam ko lang, I think yung matuwid na
daan.
daan, parang hindi si ang sa kay presidente, walang
Corrupt.
mahirap.
walang corrupt.
Walang
But in
corrupt.
other words, he is known for being straight.
Walang
and-
mahirap.
Walang corrupt.
Yeah, but
It's
with-
the other way around.
Walang corrupt,
Correct,
walang mahirap.
walang mahirap. But his direction in life is to eradicate corruption and corrupt practices.
Doon saludo ako doon.
Oo. So, hindi tama na naman yung nangyayari ngayon.
May corruption pa rin.
Hindi, kasi pinakikialam mo, you're putting undue pressure into the political system and to this political fight which we call our democracy, di ba? Kasi meron kang partido, gusto mo liberal manalo, kawawa naman yung mga ibang political parties who will go against the liberal because you're on the side of the administration. Pag hindi ka sumali sa liberal, wala kang budget. Di ba yan sinasabi ni Pacquiao? Pag ayaw niyo i-release ang budget ko, sa susunod,
In my
bago
case,
akong
Harry
paraan,
and John,
di ba?
in my case, I would contest that because I'm not a liberal. I'm with
Yeah,
the
you're
UP.
not.
Yeah. Yet, I have budget naman. Hindi naman ako iniipit nila. So maybe, mayroon lang circumstances, hindi naman yata iniipit. Baka, I would agree, dinidelay sometimes ang release. Because there are certain procedures that we have to follow. We have to submit our budgetary
Hindi basta bibigay
priorities.
sa'yo yan, eh. May
Oo,
trabaho.
hindi,
May
hindi,
konting
hindi
trabaho.
automatic yun. You have to submit your number one priority kung anong project mo
Pero pag ikaw'y
So if
miyembro-
you submit less, last, you will be released last.
Pero Congressman, in practice, kung ikaw'y kapartido ng Pangulo, mabilis kahit na wala ka pang requirements eh.
Marami din nagko-complain na partido ng Pangulo pero hindi pa rin nakaka-receive. To tell you frankly, marami din congressman na nagsabi sa akin na nauna pa daw, mabuti ka, Emil in UP ka, nauna ka pa. I would dispute that dahil although there are really instances na magsususpit siya kagaya ni Toby Tiangco na hindi daw at saka ni Magsaysay.
Ni Mitos. Hindi
na
daw binigay.
complain sila.
Pero sabi
That
niya,
I don't
binigay
know.
daw sa constituents. Paano mabibigay? Anyway, that's... Congressman, we're at the bottom
Pero
of
on
the hour.
that aspect, Harry, I would suggest that the President should not do that. Hindi
I agree.
dapat gawin yun.
Congressman, we're at the bottom of the hour. We're going to have to take a short break. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to just pause for some station IDs. We'll be right back. But when we do come back, we'll talk of even the more sensitive issues, which we in the Philippines call politics. I sometimes call rule of law. But I'm being extremely, how do you say it, sarcastic when I say the word rule of law, because it isn't. We'll be right back.
we're back, ladies and gentlemen. We discussed so many things about political parties, experiences, and even issues about political parties. Usually, when you go to the basics of political science, political parties are there to what? To fight for certain principles and ideologies. And that is supposed to be the ideals of what a political party is. When you go to the United States, it is Democrat and Republicans. They would say that the Democrats are so much liberal, and the Republicans are the conservatives. And even there's the Green Party. So they come up with certain issues and political principles. During the time of Marcos, there is the KBL, and the KBL would speak of the Filipino ideology and the Filipino society and a new society. Now, we have so many parties, the People's Reform Party, we have the Lakas CMD, we have the Liberal Party, the UNO, the Partido ng Masang Pilipino, and the NUP, and even evolving so many parties. Maybe someday a drinking party would also evolve. And when it comes to this political party, people are not aware of what the political principles and ideologies and visions of this political party. Our guest has been a veteran politician, and he's been to so many political parties. And as mentioned, he states that political parties, this states to the local level, has no implication in terms of the ideology itself, but rather, as per my perception, it is more only of a boat that they need to ride on during election. So ganito po, nasaksiyan niyo yung from the nationalista to the liberal. Ano po ba yung political party noon sa political party ngayon? Ano pagkakaiba?
Well, mas respetado yata yung noon. Mas the line drawn by the political parties at the early part when I was a CONCON delegate, hindi nakikialam noon ang political party sa CONCON. Pero mayroon liberal, may nationalista. During the two-party system, mas respetado which party do you belong. Now with the multi-party system that the 1987 Constitution adopted, malalot gumulo na. Kaya hindi na masyado identified which party do you belong because a multi-party group na. Hindi na ina-identified, oy si Emil, liberal yan. Oy si nationalista yan. Parang wala nang ganun eh.
Wala na.
Hindi na masyado. Except maybe sa presidential election at saka sa senatorial election.
Pero yung prinsipyo...
Pag senatorial election, ganun pa rin.
Pero yung prinsipyo sa national, nadadala pa rin ba? For example, President Noynoy is a liberal. Does he go within the liberal principle, the liberal ideology?
Well, maybe he should be the one to answer that.
Based on your observations.
I don't think so. Kasi ngayon lahat, hindi na masyado, marahil hindi na tinitingnan nila yung mga ideologies ng parties.
So,
kami sa NUP, unity kami.
Kasi
Yun lang ang amin ini-emphasize.
Kasi I remember-
Parang coalition.
kasi I remember the
United.
NUP evolved from the Lakas CMD, and usually, Speaker De Menecio would always speak that the Lakas is a centrist ideology, which is the ideology is based on the European model.
That's right.
Ng ideology. Sige.
Yeah, no, John, I think the sensitivity of political parties, which is why you have what you call political butterflies. The congressmen, the senators, the governors, the mayors, it is not because they wish to be political butterflies, but in the local scenario, pagdating sa lokal, pag may nakaposisyon at nauna o nasa liberal na, for example, at lalabang ka, sasabayan mo, miski mahal mong liberal, miski mahal mong presidente o kaalyado ka ng presidente, pag gusto mo naman tumakbo, wala kang choice kundi to go to the next party. Kung hindi, atras ka na lang sa eleksyon. So, gano'n na nangyari. Now, the ideal setup that you were promoting, tama po yun. That's the ideal. You see here, the political parties are limited to the politicians who practice and play politics. In America, when you have the Democrats versus the
Republicans.
the Republicans, it is what you believe in, and it is not only the politicians that perform, participate, and sign up. It is the voting public. Tayo dito ako, for example, you and I know you have PRODEM because you promoted PRODEM, which I think you should promote into Congress. You know, dapat tumakbo ka na dyan sa PRODEM, di ba? Pro-democracy yan.
Qualified
Ayo,
with his many doctorate.
ang daming doctorate eh.
With so young, Dr. John.
You know,
I think
nga
you're
pala,
overqualified to be a counselor.
si VP Binay, naging Novus Cosa, binigyan ng doctorate degree
Doctorate.
kahapon lang.
But Vice President Binay is a lawyer.
Abogado
Actually,
rin po yan.
Actually, during our time with Cory, Larry, and Dr. John, we were called the Balgoson Boys.
Balgoson po.
Balgoson, because our office, the CAPM, Cory Aquino for President Movement,
Opo.
our main office in the Balgoson building in Makati.
Ah.
So we were branded at Balgoson. Binay was our chief legal counsel
Pero ito, ano,
for
ah,
the CAPM.
Atom.
Cory Aquino for President
Correct.
Movement. And I was the regional chairman of Region 8.
Pero
I was
ano,
assigned on the field.
Congressman, when we look at usually the problems in the economy, I not that you would agree with me, sometimes the economic effect is dependent on the political scenario. Kung ano dikta ng politika, yun ang nangyayari sa ekonomiya. So, in terms of the political reforms, isn't it that time for us to come up with legislations that would concentrate on political reforms, then economic reforms would follow?
That's very good analogy. I firmly believe also on that aspect na economics and political can really affect each other. Like when they say that we have to amend economic provision in the Constitution, I think not only economics, also political. Provision in the Constitution. Like the term of the politician, 3 years would affect the economy also.
The party
Di ba?
system.
Tsaka,
The party system.
Every 3 years election, ano
that
ba
would boil
naman?
down, that would boil down to economics.
Opo.
Every 3 years. Yung
Every 3 years.
stability ng government.
Correct.
That's why, Harry, there are less investor coming in dahil yung mga kaibigan kong investor, sabi nila, Congressman Ong, how can we be assured
Election na
na
election.
nandiyan ka pa
Totoo yan.
after
Totoo
3
yan.
years? Sana kung 6 years man lang ang term mo, if we will invest
In one go.
long-term investment,
One go. Oo.
which could maybe last for 10 years, at least we are protected within 6 years. Pero in 3 years, baka mapalitan ka na. Yung amin project hindi pa tapos. Baka guluhin ng kalaban mo. Dahil
Totoo rin yan.
will support you. Diba? Yun ang kanilang apprehension. So definitely, the term of office should be amended. 3 years is too short and it creates political instability.
How about
and
the-
also more expenses for the government.
Correct.
Every election,
Bayan,
billions.
billion. 10 billion.
How about the party system? Kasi you mentioned kanina, parang yung local party is, ang local candidates, ginagawa na lang bangka yung political party for winning the election. Siguro, would you agree with me that we need to promote the local party system? For example, a local party within a certain area that adheres to the principle of the district or kaya the city and the probinsya para mas malalim yung pananaw nila sa ideolohiya ng kanilang distrito sa kanilang probinsya.
Yung concept mo yan, Dr. Jan, if I remember right, I recall the wisdom of President Cory Aquino in adopting the multi-party system. Because sabi niya, we are in a democratic country, we cannot just limit two-party system because there are so many minds also advocacies na nabilib din sila sa communism, nabilib din sila sa socialism. Why should we refuse socialist party? Why should we refuse communist party? Don't you know that communism is also an accepted party in the Philippines under the modern? That's why the NPA should not be there in the mountain. They should come down and join the Communist Party and also participate in an advocacy.
Sa election.
Yun ang concept noon ni President Cory.
So they should not hide.
And I respect that because in a democracy, we should not limit only the two-party system. No, kailangan din accommodate some ideologies which cannot be accepted in the liberal or in the nationalist.
Pero the ideology per se should be exposed. For example, if the Communist Party would participate in an electoral process, ipakita nila we are the Communist Party of the Philippines, vote
Yes.
for us. Huwag ka magtago
But not
sa
in the mountain.
Hindi, huwag ka magtago sa isang partido na ganito, ganyan. Kasi nadideceive yung tao eh.
I am part of the negotiating team representing the government during the time of Cory Aquino administration to talk with the rebels that we should welcome them to join already the government to help our country into one country, hindi na tayo divided. Because definitely yung peace and order affects the economy as well. No?
The spirit of the law is definitely in order, but it seems, based on practice and what we have seen in the last 20 years, we have seen the reversal.
Okay.
And nowadays, we are now battling with what we call, but then again, we understand the reason why we have political butterflies. It's really only political parties really only exist for the senators and national offices, which is so true. It does not help the local. In fact, it's the local that carries the national pagdating sa eleksyon.
Tama po yun.
It's the other way around. And when you talk of a comprehensive security and an economic base or any real policy, grassroots is where it all begins and ends. Diyan naman ang building blocks mo. Hindi naman pwedeng sa taas ka, national, tapos magkakrambulan sa ilalim eh. Di ba? Parang ganun ang lumalaban. Kayo po, as a senior statesman and politician, it is 2012. Visayas, Mindanao are reeling from brownouts. The president has tried to rationalize just this afternoon, saying he's doing his very best to explain why the economics of why it has to be expensive and base load and everything. He took the time out and called an emergency or a snap, what do you call it, press conference today to rationalize because that his words are taken out of context in print and TV. Parang sinasabi niya, kawawa kayo sa Mindanao, may iwan kayo dyan, mabulok kayo. No,
Which
he
is
did not
wrong
mean
naman.
that.
Hindi naman ganun.
That's why he came out and he tried to explain to his fullest. And I was quite impressed of his comprehension of the details of the power sector in Mindanao. Of course, there was that problem with Pacquiao because it was said during the same summit or the same forum. The problem is, ikaw po, it's 2012. We are reeling still from brownouts. We have not built a new plant for some time. The policy of government has been staying away. It's like mining. It is there, but nobody really wants to make it move. It's like saying, no one in the dynasty law. Andiyan dyan yan, pero wag natin pag-usapan. Di ba? Where are we going? Kayo po, you're a senior statesman, matagal na po kayo. Although local lang hinahawakan nyo, to a certain extent, you're national because you're
Congressman
elected
is
locally.
national.
Yes, but your work is national.
Correct.
Because you're creating laws. You are the beginning. You're the source, di ba? No one can create. The power of the law of the creation of legislation rests with you. Now, 287 of you. Difficult because everyone is the same. Even the speaker cannot say he's higher. He only has one vote at the end of the day. Now, where are we going, sir?
Well, Harry, definitely I agree that power is really number one factor that would progress our economy. If our power is very expensive, naturally the economy will suffer a lot. And the cheapest power in the world is the hydroelectric power. I don't know why we should not give importance
Ayun yung
to
nuclear.
generate hydroelectric. Nuclear is still controversial because like what happened to Japan, no? Na sinasabi nila nuclear is safe. Pero when the tsunami affected Japan, nagkaroon ng problema ang
nuclear plant, power plant.
yes, ang power plant nila. So still, I would go with China, who is now the number one hydroelectric source of power and the cheapest. China now is the number one
Pero-
hydroelectric source of power in the world.
Hindi po
In the
pwede
world.
base load
And
ng
that is very
hydroelectric
cheap. We have so many rivers.
Oh, pero
The
hindi-
Philippines is an archipelago.
Pero hindi po
We are
kaya
surrounded by waters. So why should we not generate and encourage hydroelectric power?
But,
Magagalit sa
sir,
inyo yung mga katutubo.
but first, it's, sir, it's not base load.
But that is the cheapest
Yeah, but
source of power.
it's not based on-
Hydroelectric.
Okay. Congressman, in terms of the cheapest form of power,
Like the Maria Cristina
Okay,
Falls, di
okay.
ba? Kaya mura.
Pero meron na yan, di ba? May facility
kasi
na po
one
dyan.
thing that the power industry is we have problems in the power industry because of the monopoly in the power industry. Siguro kung we would come up with other power plant or power provider other than Meralco, in the concept of competition, mas marami naglalaban-laban.
You mean Meralco o Boitis?
Oo.
Alcantara. Sa Mindanao, Alcantara yan eh. Hindi naman
Pero
Boitis
that's a
yan.
good topic to discuss,
Oo.
Dr. John. You know, sa Canada, power is, even the distribution is government, cooperative. It should not be given to a
Hindi privatized.
single family, not privatized. The source of power is the government, the national power. Yet, why give it to the private to distribute it? Why not
Kasi
cooperative?
ngayon, pag naputulan ka ng Meralco, wala kang lilipatan. Ngayon, pag naputulan ka ng PLDT, lipat ka sa ibang
At saka,
provider, di ba?
Ang question mark, I'm not against per se Meralco or other or Aboitiz, pero ang question mark, ang impression ng tao, sabi nila, Congressman, bakit to ang yumayaman lang sila? Bakit to hindi ang tao ang
Tama
yumayaman,
yan.
yung gumagamit?
Ano po sagot po doon?
Sabi ko, kasi hindi tayo kooperatiba. In a cooperative system, all the members and users of powers are automatically sharing also the profits of the cooperative. So kung ang Meralco ay cooperative, kayo na gumagamit, kayo na nagbabayad ng power, at the end of the year, at the end of the day, mayroon din kayo dividend. Which, after paying, nababawasan yung inyong gasto sa power. That is the concept of cooperative. I would go for that. Maybe in the Philippines, we can change the form of government into socialism. Like cigarettes, like liquor. Power should go to the government, not to the private individual.
Ginawa na ni Marcos yun, di ba?
Oo.
Ginawa yung power industry.
Dapat sa gobyerno yan. In Canada, yung liquor. The only
gobyerno.
one that can import liquor, that can manufacture is the government. Cigarettes. The only one that can manufacture cigarettes is the government.
So we have a system problem.
So the government is very rich. Don't you know, in Canada, that's why we have to amend the constitution. That's why in Canada, even if you don't have job, you still get something from the government dahil socialism.
Congressman, we're at the top of the hour, and having you in the show, you're so animated, and it's so much fun to be with you because of your knowledge, your seniority, your background, your experience.
Thank you very much for that word.
Congressman, we have to end the show, so I'd like to give you a minute to address our viewers. What would be your exit message to our viewers? Straight on.
Thank you very much, Harry. Thank you, Dr. John, for this opportunity to be with you. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be invited and to talk with personalities like Harry and Dr. John. I feel elated to be your guest. I believe that we have discussed lots of topics, but I think time is short. Still, maraming salamat po sa mga pagbibigay niyo ng pagkakataon makapagsabi naman ako ng konti.
Maraming salamat po, Congressman. We will be hearing from you because malapit na eleksyon. So we're gonna need your insights. Ikaw, Dr. John.
Hello, alam mga kaibigan, yung pinag-usapan natin, political parties, prinsipyo, ideolohiya. Siguro po sa bawat Pilipino, titignan natin ang prinsipyo ng bawat politiko, ng bawat public servants natin. One thing po, if a Filipino is not principled, the problem is that maghihirap po ang ating bayan. Unahin po muna natin ang prinsipyong pangkalahatan na kung saan bawat Pilipino ay magkakaisa at magkakaroon ng pagkakaunawaan. Ang problema po, kung ating prinsipyo ay makasarili, walang mangyayari sa ating bayan. Tingnan po natin ang isang prinsipyong magmamahal sa bayang Pilipinas.
Pang-congressman yan.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you've enjoyed our program. Guest, I'm glad that he was able to take time out and sit with us in the studio. We learned so much about him. You know, the only way you can learn people, champions natin, mga nagsasalita, at magbigay ng analysis kung saan dapat tayo papunta. Maraming salamat po. My name is Harry Tambuatco. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll be back next week. Same time, same channel. Good evening. What you watch. You are what you watch.